Sparky was a survivor. His fur, once a bright white with patches of tan, was now matted and dusty, a testament to his life on the streets. He was a terrier mix, mostly with short legs and a wiry build, perfect for squeezing under fences and darting through traffic. His tail, though often tucked low, would wag hopefully at the sight of a friendly face, but those faces were few and far between. Life as a stray was hard. Every day was a search for food. He learned to sniff out scraps behind restaurants, to rummage through overflowing bins, always keeping a wary eye out for angry people, and to occasionally charm a kind soul into sharing a bit of their lunch. Shelter was just as difficult to find. He slept under bushes, in doorways, and once, during a particularly brutal rainstorm, huddled beneath a parked car, shivering until the morning sun finally broke through the clouds. Despite the hardships, Sparky held onto a sweetness that was hard to extinguish. He had a gentle heart, evident in the way he would cautiously approach other animals, offering a playful bow rather than a threatening growl. He even tried to befriend the grumpy old tomcat who ruled the alley behind the bakery, though his efforts were usually met with a hiss and a swipe of sharp claws. But Sparky was wary too. He had learned that most humans weren't to be trusted. Too many had shooed him away, kicked at him, or simply ignored his pleading eyes. So, he kept his distance, always ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. He longed for a kind touch, a warm bed, and a full bowl of food. But those things seemed like a distant dream, a forgotten memory from a life he could barely recall. The streets were his home now, and survival was his only goal. But it wasn't always like this for Sparky. There was a time when his fur was clean, his belly was full, and his heart was overflowing with love. A time when he had a name, a home, and a boy who adored him. His name was still Sparky back then, given to him by Billy, a bright-eyed boy with a mop of brown hair and an infectious laugh. Billy was everything to Sparky, his playmate, his protector, his best friend. They were inseparable from the moment Billy's parents brought the tiny, fluffy puppy home. The park was their kingdom. Every afternoon after Billy finished his homework, they would race to the sprawling green space, the leash practically vibrating with Sparky's excitement. Billy would throw a bright red tennis ball and Sparky would chase after it with boundless energy, his ears flapping in the wind, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. He'd bring the ball back, dropping it at Billy's feet, panting happily, ready for another round. Sometimes they'd just lie in the grass, Billy reading a book and Sparky nestled beside him, his head resting on Billy's lap. Billy would gently stroke Sparky's fur, whispering secrets and stories, and Sparky would listen intently, his eyes fixed on Billy's face, understanding every word, even if he couldn't speak them himself. Bath time was an adventure, filled with bubbles and splashing and Billy's delighted giggles. Bedtime was a cozy ritual, with Sparky curled up at the foot of Billy's bed, keeping watch over his sleeping friend, dreaming of endless games of fetch and belly rubs. Those were happy days, filled with sunshine and laughter and the unwavering bond between a boy and his dog. A stark contrast to the harsh reality of the streets, a memory that both warmed and saddened Sparky's heart. He wondered if Billy ever thought of him, if he remembered their games in the park, if he missed him as much as Sparky missed him. The day Sparky's world shattered started like any other. He and Billy were in the park, playing fetch, the sky a clear, bright blue. But as the afternoon wore on, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, rumbling like distant thunder. Billy's mom called, telling them to come home immediately. They were halfway home when the storm hit. The sky turned an angry gray and the wind howled, whipping the trees back and forth. Rain began to fall in sheets, blinding them. A particularly loud clap of thunder startled Sparky, and he pulled free from his leash, his small body trembling with fear. He bolted, running blindly through the downpour, the sound of thunder echoing in his ears. He didn't know where he was going, only that he needed to escape the terrifying noise and the stinging rain. He ran and ran until he was completely lost and disoriented. When the storm finally subsided, Sparky found himself in an unfamiliar part of town, surrounded by strange buildings and unfamiliar smells. He was alone, scared, and soaking wet. He tried to retrace his steps, but everything looked different in the aftermath of the storm. Meanwhile, Billy was frantic. He had searched everywhere for Sparky, calling his name until his voice was hoarse. His parents helped him, driving around the neighborhood, putting up posters with Sparky's picture, offering a reward for his safe return. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but Sparky was nowhere to be found. Billy never gave up hope, but as time went on, his heart grew heavier and heavier. He missed Sparky terribly, the empty space beside his bed a constant reminder of his lost friend. He would often sit by the window, staring out at the street, hoping to catch a glimpse of a familiar white and tan dog, but Sparky never came home. The loss left a hole in Billy's life, a wound that time seemed unable to heal. 2 years. 2 long, grueling years had passed since that fateful storm. 2 years of battling the elements, dodging traffic, and fending for himself on the unforgiving streets. The once fluffy puppy had transformed into a hardened survivor, his youthful innocence replaced with a wary resilience. The winters were the worst. The biting wind and freezing rain chilled him to the bone, making it nearly impossible to find a warm place to sleep. He would huddle under anything he could find, cardboard boxes, discarded blankets, even piles of leaves, just to escape the relentless cold. Hunger was a constant companion, gnawing at his belly, reminding him of the warm meals he used to enjoy. Summer brought its own challenges. The scorching sun beat down mercilessly, leaving him dehydrated and exhausted. Finding water was a daily struggle, often relying on puddles or the kindness of strangers who would occasionally leave out a bowl. Loneliness was perhaps the hardest burden to bear. He longed for companionship, for a friendly face, for a gentle touch. He sometimes saw other dogs, but they were usually just as wary and isolated as he was, more concerned with survival than with friendship. He still remembered Billy, but the memories were fading, like old photographs bleached by the sun. He could still picture Billy's face, hear his laughter, feel his touch, but the details were becoming blurry, the edges frayed. He remembered their games in the park, their cozy nights together, the feeling of being loved and cherished. But those memories were becoming more like dreams than real experiences, distant echoes from a life that seemed almost impossible to have been his. He often wondered if Billy was still looking for him, if he still thought about him. He hoped so, but deep down, he feared that Billy had moved on, that he had forgotten about the little dog he once loved so much. The thought filled him with a deep sadness, a sense of loss that went beyond the physical hardships he endured each day. One afternoon, while scavenging near a busy street, Sparky found himself drawn towards a familiar landmark, the park. He hadn't been near it in what felt like a lifetime, the memories both a comfort and a painful reminder of what he had lost. He hesitated, his instincts telling him to stay away, to avoid the place that held so much joy and so much sorrow. But then a scent. A faint, almost imperceptible scent drifted on the breeze, cutting through the smells of exhaust fumes and street food. It was a scent he hadn't smelled in 2 years, a scent that was buried deep within his memory, a scent that made his heart skip a beat. It was Billy's scent. He couldn't explain it, couldn't rationalize it. It wasn't just a generic human smell. It was Billy, the unique combination of his shampoo, his clothes, his own distinct essence. It was faint, diluted by the passage of time and distance, but it was undeniably there. Sparky's head tilted, his ears perked up, his nose twitching, trying to capture every last molecule of the precious scent. He was confused. Could it really be him? After all this time? It seemed impossible, a cruel trick of his memory. But the scent was too strong, too familiar to ignore. It tugged at him, pulling him towards the park, overriding his caution and his fear. He took a tentative step, then another, his tail beginning to wag hesitantly. He didn't understand what was happening, but he couldn't resist the pull. He had to investigate. He had to see if his nose was leading him astray, or if, against all odds, Billy was really nearby. He cautiously made his way towards the park entrance, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The scent grew stronger with each step, confirming what his heart already knew. Billy was close. Billy, now a young teenager, taller and with a hint of stubble on his chin, walked slowly through the park. He still came here sometimes, drawn by the memories of happier days. He often thought about Sparky, wondering where he was, if he was safe, if he ever thought of him too. He knew the chances were slim after all this time, but a part of him refused to give up hope completely. He was lost in thought when he noticed a dog near the old oak tree where he and Sparky used to play. It was a scruffy, dirty terrier mix, its fur matted and dull. It was sniffing the ground, its body thin and worn. Something about the dog was familiar. The way it held its head, the shape of its ears, the little white patch on its chest. He hesitated. Could it be? It had been so long. Sparky would be much bigger now, wouldn't he? And cleaner, certainly. He shook his head, dismissing the thought as wishful thinking. He had seen countless dogs that reminded him of Sparky over the years, only to be disappointed. It was better not to get his hopes up. But still, he couldn't shake the feeling. There was something in the dog's eyes, a spark of recognition, a flicker of something familiar. He watched the dog for a moment longer, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he had to do something. He couldn't just walk away without knowing for sure. Even if it wasn't Sparky, the dog looked like it needed help. But approaching it was daunting. What if it was just another stray, wary and defensive? What if he was wrong and he was just setting himself up for another wave of disappointment? He hesitated, caught between hope and fear, unsure of what to do. Taking a deep breath, Billy crouched down, his voice barely a whisper. "Sparky," he called out tentatively, the name feeling strange and unfamiliar on his tongue after so many years. The dog froze. It stopped sniffing the ground and lifted its head, its ears perked up, its eyes locking onto Billy's. For a moment it just stood there, motionless, as if trying to process the sound, the name, the familiar voice. Then something shifted in its eyes. A flicker of recognition, a spark of understanding. It took a hesitant step forward, then another, its tail starting to wag, slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm, though it was still a weak, uncertain wag. It approached cautiously, its body low to the ground, its eyes fixed on Billy's face. It seemed afraid, unsure, as if afraid to believe what its heart was telling it. Billy remained crouched, his heart pounding in his chest, his eyes filling with tears. He reached out a hand slowly, palm up, offering it to the dog. "Sparky," he repeated, his voice choked with emotion. "Is that you, boy?" The dog hesitated for another moment, then closed the distance, its nose twitching as it sniffed Billy's outstretched hand. A low whine escaped its throat, a sound filled with longing and disbelief. It nudged its head against Billy's hand, its tail wagging faster now, its eyes shining with unshed tears. It was him. It was Sparky. After all this time, after all the heartache and the searching, he had finally found him. The years melted away and Billy was once again a young boy, reunited with his best friend. The reunion was close. Overwhelmed by the confirmation, Sparky pressed closer, his tail wagging furiously now. He began to lick Billy's hand, his whines growing louder, turning into joyful yelps. He couldn't contain himself any longer. With a burst of energy, he jumped up, planting his paws on Billy's chest, his entire body trembling with excitement. Billy gasped, instinctively wrapping his arms around the dog, burying his face in his matted fur. Tears streamed down his face, a mixture of joy, relief, and overwhelming emotion. He hugged Sparky tightly, feeling the familiar weight of his body, the familiar warmth of his fur. As he held Sparky close, his fingers brushed against something behind the dog's ear. A small, slightly raised patch of skin, barely noticeable under the fur. A mark he had almost forgotten, a unique birthmark that Sparky had had since he was a puppy. It was the final confirmation, the undeniable proof. There was no doubt in his mind. This was Sparky, his Sparky, the dog he had loved and lost so many years ago. "Sparky," he cried out, his voice cracking with emotion. "It's really you. It's really you." He pulled back slightly, looking into Sparky's eyes, searching for the spark of recognition, the familiar intelligence he remembered so well. And there it was. The same bright, loving eyes that had always gazed up at him with unwavering devotion. The years of hardship had taken their toll, but the spark was still there, burning as brightly as ever. Billy held Sparky even tighter, burying his face in his fur once more, letting the tears flow freely. He had found him. After all this time, against all odds, he had found his best friend. The emotion was overwhelming. Billy's tears flowed freely now, a torrent of emotions released after years of suppressed grief and longing. He hugged Sparky tighter, burying his face in the dog's fur, whispering words of love and apology. "I missed you so much, boy," he sobbed. "I never stopped looking for you." Sparky, sensing Billy's distress, licked his face, his tail wagging furiously, his body pressed close to Billy's, offering silent comfort. He seemed to understand, to forgive, to reassure Billy that everything was all right now, that they were together again, and that was all that mattered. Their emotional reunion didn't go unnoticed. People walking through the park began to stop, drawn by the sight of the weeping teenager and the scruffy dog locked in a tight embrace. They watched with curiosity, then with understanding, and finally with heartfelt emotion. Some wiped away tears of their own, touched by the raw, unadulterated joy of the reunion. Others smiled, remembering their own beloved pets, past and present. A few even pulled out their phones, capturing the moment, wanting to share the heartwarming scene with others. An elderly woman, walking with a cane, approached slowly, her eyes filled with compassion. "That's a beautiful sight," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "A boy and his dog reunited after all this time. It gives me hope." A young couple, pushing a stroller, stopped to watch, their baby cooing and gurgling at the sight of the dog. "That's amazing," the woman said to her partner. "It's like something out of a movie." Even the teenagers, usually absorbed in their phones and their own dramas, paused to witness the scene, their expressions softening, their hearts touched by the simple, powerful love between a boy and his dog. The park, usually a place of casual encounters and fleeting moments, became a sanctuary of shared emotion, a testament to the enduring power of love, loyalty, and the unwavering bond between humans and animals. Billy and Sparky's reunion was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even after years of separation and hardship, love can still find a way. With a renewed sense of purpose, Billy carefully led Sparky out of the park, ignoring the lingering stares and heartfelt smiles. He knew Sparky needed more than just hugs and tears. He needed a home, a warm bed, and a full belly. As they walked towards Billy's house, Sparky stayed close, his body brushing against Billy's leg as if afraid to lose him again. He looked up at Billy every few steps, his eyes filled with gratitude and unwavering trust. When they arrived at the house, Billy's parents were waiting anxiously on the porch, having heard the news from a neighbor who had witnessed the reunion in the park. They rushed towards Billy and Sparky, their faces filled with emotion. "Oh, Billy," his mom cried, hugging him tightly. "We can't believe it. Sparky's home." His dad patted him on the back, his eyes glistening with tears. "Welcome home, Sparky," he said, reaching out to stroke the dog's head. Sparky, initially hesitant, cautiously approached Billy's parents, sniffing their hands, then licking them tentatively. He seemed to sense their kindness, their genuine joy at his return. The first order of business was a bath. Billy gently coaxed Sparky into the bathroom, filling the tub with warm water and dog shampoo. Sparky, initially apprehensive, soon relaxed, enjoying the soothing warmth and the gentle massage of Billy's hands. The dirt and grime of the streets washed away, revealing the bright white and tanned fur that Billy remembered so well. After the bath, Billy wrapped Sparky in a soft towel, drying him gently. Then he led him to the kitchen, where his mom had prepared a bowl of warm, delicious-smelling food. Sparky devoured it in seconds, his tail wagging furiously, his eyes shining with happiness. Finally, tired but content, Sparky curled up on a soft blanket in Billy's room, his head resting on his paws, his eyes watching Billy as he got ready for bed. Soon, he drifted off to sleep, a deep, peaceful slumber he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time in a long time, Sparky felt safe, loved, and truly at home. It was the start of a new beginning, a journey of healing and rediscovering the joys of a life filled with love and companionship. The next morning, Sparky woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside the window and the smell of breakfast wafting from the kitchen. He stretched, yawned, and looked around the room, his eyes still adjusting to the comfort and safety of his surroundings. He was initially nervous, unsure of what was expected of him. He remembered living in this house, but the memories were hazy, fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. He hesitated to move, afraid of breaking some unspoken rule. But then Billy appeared at the door, his face beaming with a warm smile. "Good morning, Sparky," he said, his voice gentle and reassuring. "How did you sleep?" Sparky wagged his tail tentatively, then slowly got to his feet, approaching Billy with a cautious curiosity. Billy knelt down, offering a scratch behind Sparky's ears, and the dog relaxed, leaning into his touch, his tail wagging faster now. As the day went on, Sparky began to explore the house, sniffing at familiar objects, his memory slowly returning. He remembered the squeaky spot on the living room floor, the sunny patch by the window where he used to nap, and the cozy armchair in the den where Billy's dad would read him stories. He even remembered his old toys, a tattered rope, a squeaky ball, and a stuffed hedgehog, all tucked away in a box in the basement. He retrieved them one by one, bringing them to Billy, his eyes shining with excitement. It was as if a switch had been flipped in his brain, unlocking the forgotten memories of his past life. He quickly re-established his old routines, following Billy from room to room, sleeping at the foot of his bed, and greeting him with enthusiastic wags and licks whenever he entered the room. The fear and apprehension that had plagued him for so long began to fade away, replaced by a sense of belonging, a feeling of being home. He was finally back where he belonged, surrounded by the people who loved him, and he couldn't have been happier. The readjustment was happening. Over the next few weeks, Billy and Sparky dedicated themselves to re-establishing their bond, to bridging the gap created by years of separation and hardship. They spent countless hours together, rediscovering the simple joys of companionship. They went for long walks in the park, revisiting their old haunts, the places where they had shared so many happy memories. Billy kept Sparky on a leash, not wanting to risk losing him again, but Sparky didn't seem to mind. He was content just to be by Billy's side, sniffing the familiar scents and soaking up the sunshine. They played fetch with the bright red tennis ball just like they used to. Sparky, though a little slower now, still chased after the ball with enthusiasm, his tail wagging furiously, his eyes shining with joy. Billy made sure to praise him lavishly, showering him with affection, making him feel loved and appreciated. In the evenings, they would cuddle on the couch, watching television or reading books. Sparky would snuggle close to Billy, resting his head on his lap, his body warm and comforting. Billy would stroke his fur gently, whispering stories and secrets, just like he used to. He also started teaching Sparky new tricks, rewarding him with treats and praise. Sparky, eager to please, quickly learned to sit, stay, and shake hands. He even learned to roll over, a trick he had never mastered as a puppy. Billy noticed that Sparky was slowly regaining his confidence, his fear and anxiety gradually fading away. He was becoming more playful, more affectionate, more like the dog he remembered. He realized that the years on the streets had taken their toll, but the love and loyalty that had always defined their relationship were still there, waiting to be rekindled. And with each passing day, their bond grew stronger, deeper, and more resilient than ever before. They were not just owner and pet, they were best friends, reunited after a long and difficult journey, ready to face whatever the future held together. Their bond was rekindling. The experience of losing Sparky and then miraculously finding him again had a profound impact on Billy. It changed his perspective on life, making him realize the importance of cherishing relationships and appreciating the simple things. He realized that life was fragile, that things could change in an instant, and that it was important to hold onto the people and animals you loved, to never take them for granted. He had spent so many years grieving for Sparky, feeling the emptiness of his absence, and now that he was back, he vowed to never let that happen again. He reflected on the 2 years that Sparky had spent on the streets, the hardships he had endured, the loneliness he had suffered. He couldn't imagine what it must have been like for him, struggling to survive, wondering if he had been forgotten. He was filled with a deep sense of guilt, wondering if he could have done more to prevent Sparky from getting lost, if he could have searched harder, if he could have brought him home sooner. But he knew that dwelling on the past wouldn't change anything. All he could do was focus on the present and make sure that Sparky's future was filled with love, happiness, and security. He made a promise to himself and to Sparky that he would never let him out of his sight again. He bought a new, extra-strong leash, and he made sure that Sparky always wore his collar with his ID tag and microchip information. He also became more aware of the importance of pet adoption and responsible pet ownership. He started volunteering at the local animal shelter, helping to care for abandoned and neglected animals and encouraging others to adopt rather than buy pets. He realized that Sparky's story was a testament to the resilience of love, to the enduring bond between humans and animals, and to the power of hope. And he was determined to share that story with others, to inspire them to cherish their relationships and to never give up on the things that mattered most. Billy's perspective had changed. The heartwarming story of Billy and Sparky's reunion quickly spread throughout the community, eventually catching the attention of the local news station. A reporter contacted Billy, eager to share their incredible tale of love, loss, and rediscovery with the wider world. Billy, initially hesitant to be in the spotlight, agreed to an interview, realizing that their story could inspire others and promote responsible pet ownership. He wanted to emphasize the importance of microchipping pets, as it was the microchip that ultimately led to Sparky's identification and return. The news segment aired during the evening broadcast, featuring footage of Billy and Sparky playing in the park, cuddling on the couch, and visiting the animal shelter. The reporter highlighted the emotional reunion, emphasizing the power of hope and the enduring bond between humans and animals. The story resonated deeply with viewers, many of whom had experienced similar losses and reunions with their own beloved pets. The news station received countless calls and emails praising the heartwarming story and thanking Billy for sharing his experience. The segment also featured an interview with a veterinarian who stressed the importance of microchipping pets and keeping their contact information up to date. She explained that microchips are a safe and effective way to identify lost pets and reunite them with their owners. The news coverage had a positive impact on the community, raising awareness about pet adoption, responsible pet ownership, and the importance of microchipping. The local animal shelter reported a surge in adoptions and microchipping appointments as people were inspired by Billy and Sparky's story to take better care of their own pets and to provide a loving home for animals in need. Billy and Sparky became local celebrities, their story a symbol of hope and resilience. They were invited to speak at schools and community events, sharing their message of love, loyalty, and the importance of cherishing relationships. Their story was a success. Years passed, Billy grew into a young man, and Sparky, though his muzzle turned gray and his steps slowed, remained his constant companion, his loyal friend, his unwavering source of love and support. They continued their daily walks in the park, though now they were more leisurely strolls than energetic games of fetch. They still cuddled on the couch in the evenings, but now they watched movies instead of reading stories. Billy never forgot the lessons he had learned from their separation, the importance of cherishing relationships, the fragility of life, and the power of hope. He continued to volunteer at the animal shelter, advocating for responsible pet ownership and sharing their story with others. Sparky, in turn, never forgot the hardships he had endured on the streets, the hunger, the loneliness, and the fear. He remained grateful for every warm meal, every gentle touch, and every moment spent by Billy's side. Their bond, forged in love and strengthened by adversity, became an unbreakable force, a testament to the enduring power of loyalty and the unwavering connection between humans and animals. And so, they lived out their days together, surrounded by love, laughter, and the unwavering companionship that had defined their relationship for so many years. The story ends with a heartwarming image, Billy and Sparky sleeping side by side in Billy's bed, their bodies touching, their breaths synchronized, their hearts beating as one. Sparky, now old and frail, rests peacefully, knowing that he is safe, loved, and home. Billy, his arm draped protectively around Sparky, smiles content aware that they are finally and forever together. Their lasting happiness is complete.